Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Find Your Edge. My name is Jordan Agoli, and thank you so much for joining us today, whether you're watching or listening. I am truly grateful. Today, we are joined by Dr. Verónica García Chaparro. She is a chiropractor and the founder of Whole Care, a chiropractic clinic based in Marietta, Georgia. She is also a competitive CrossFit athlete and has helped hundreds of fellow athletes and patients like myself regain their strength and their health and their normal lifestyle activities over the last few years. Dr. Garcia, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited about this.
Me too. Me too. So for everybody listening, just to give a little perspective and understanding about how Dr. Garcia and I know one another, we met almost a year ago to the day, actually. You've been working at Progressive Medical Center where I go as a patient. I've had a really rough back injury. You guys have heard about it. Dr. Garcia has single-handedly changed my life over the last year. I've probably had 80 chiropractic sessions, maybe,
if not more.
Maybe more, anywhere from 2 to 4 times a week over the last year. She's introduced me to my trainer and my physical therapist, Jacob Hamacher, who has also changed my life. So thank you for first and foremost for that. It's been amazing. But I will reference that in the interview, guys, and that's one of the reasons why she is here today. So just so you guys know about that perspective. First of all, how are you? How are you doing today?
I am good. I'm excited. I am here. I'm present. I love it.
Yes, you are. So we've got a lot that we're going to dive into. I want to hear about your life's journey, where you were born, where you grew up, and then we'll jump into your chiropractic journey. But let's just start with this. What does a day-to-day look like in your life? What are you doing? Who are you working with? Tell us about that.
Absolutely. So my day-to-day, I am an early riser. I'm up usually by 5:45, 6 a.m. or so. I'm on the road by 6:45, 7 or so, go to work. Before that, my morning routine is really important to me. I usually jump in to take a shower, all the pampering stuff, just cleaning the face with the specific stuff and all that good stuff. But I also do some journaling in the morning before hitting the road and just putting out there, what am I grateful for? First and foremost, usually I just write opening my eyes and being able to be who I am today. And on my way to work, I have 2 extremes. One extreme is the learning extreme, and that's usually in an audiobook or a podcast. And my other extreme is going to my roots and blasting some music and getting pumped up for the day. It depends a lot on how bad the traffic is and how people are running through it, to be honest. Nice glass of water and coffee. I live by coffee and I love coffee. And then I conquer the day. I have the opportunity of serving and loving on people and helping people get to what their health should be looking like at Progressive Medical Center as well as at Whole Care. And I work till about usually 6:45, 7:30 p.m. depending on my schedule in both clinics. And I spend some time with my loved ones, with my puppy dog, with my boyfriend, with just the community, and I dive back into self. And I am very, very adamant about sleeping 6 to 8 hours because otherwise I wouldn't be able to wake up the next day and do it all over again. So yeah.
So you have a full schedule. I don't like the word busy anymore. It almost feels like it has a negative connotation, but it's full and it's packed.
Yes.
And on top of that, I know you like to travel a lot. So you've got a lot going on. You work at Progressive, Whole Care, and you train a lot.
I train every day. I always put an hour and 30 minutes of my day to train, whether it's in the morning. Usually it's in the afternoon though, but always. Yeah.
And how long have you been doing CrossFit?
I've been doing CrossFit for 1.5 years, actually, not too long.
That's even shorter than I realized.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I've been doing CrossFit for about 1.5 years. I started, my very first CrossFit class was on September of 2019. And I went on it for about a month and a half. And then my body was so sore, I couldn't handle it. So I took a break of about 3 months.
That's the feeling.
But then I came back around summer of 2020, right after just being at home for a while and pandemic and all that good stuff, which is not good and all bad stuff.
Yeah.
Went back to CrossFit and started full on about May 2020. And I just been rolling from that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't realize it. Okay, that's impressive then.
Yeah.
And we'll jump into that more because I have a lot of questions about it too. So, all right, let's go all the way back in time to where you were born.
Yeah.
And I know you've shared some of that with me, but let's just start with that. Where were you born?
Absolutely. I was born in the beautiful island of Puerto Rico in San Juan. I come from a mixed family. My dad is a Black Puerto Rican. My mom is white, born and raised in New Jersey, but from descendants of Puerto Rico. And she moved to Puerto Rico when she was 17, I believe. I was born in San Juan on September 17, 1993, and I came as a storm. I like to point it out. My mom, during my birth, my mom went into cardiac arrest, which meant a lot of trauma to her body and her everything, because that was a C-section, which means it's more important not to save her reproductive organs, but to actually save her life. Right. So there's a lot of details of that my parents have never really been comfortable enough with saying the whole story, but they'll drop hints here and there. It's like, oh yeah, this happened when you were born. I'm like, you should have told me this.
As you get older.
Absolutely. As I get older.
You're probably still hearing
details.
Oh,
100%. I'm like, that happened? They're like, yeah, you didn't know? I'm like, oh no, nobody ever told me this. So yeah, I was a very active kid that used to get in trouble a lot. It's kind of still am.
Trouble?
Every kind of trouble. So, okay. I was always the talker, and you'll notice this during this interview. I can talk for days, okay? So just talking a lot, but also when I was in 6th grade, I got changed schools into the school that my mom had started working at. It's a small private school, more like they do a lot of non-traditional learning, in the sense that there's a lot of classes about recycling and self-growth and things like that, which I love about that school.
In middle school, that's interesting.
Elementary, 6th grade.
Oh, elementary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
Or sorry, elementary, 6 years, 2nd grade. That's what I meant. Yes.
Got it.
That's when I started in that school, and a few things started happening with my body that we couldn't really understand. So my mom was told by the 2nd grade teacher, hey, she can't sit still, she won't shut up, and she doesn't take any notes, like at all. And you could see my notebooks from 2nd grade, and I would write down the date, and I would write down what we're talking about, and I would write down random words here and there of what was on the board, which back in the day, we didn't have PowerPoint presentations from the professors. Everything was just handwritten on the board.
Yep.
So you had to learn how to read their handwriting, but also it depends how close or far away you are. So nonetheless, I got into a lot of academic trouble for that reason, because I just couldn't take notes, or wasn't able to take notes. Got diagnosed with ADHD because, person that can't stay still, is not paying attention in class, can't do the task. Makes sense, ADHD, right? And my 3rd grade teacher told my mom, I think there's something more rather than just that. And that took us on quite a journey. Fast forward to understanding that it's not that I had ADHD. It was the simple fact that I just couldn't see.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly. So, and not in the 20/20 vision kind of way, in the peripheral vision kind of way. So Whoa. I would only be able to see what was right in front of me, but I couldn't see everything else around. So if you were to put your hands next to you at your shoulder level and start coming forward around about this, you should be able to see your fingers wiggle and move, right?
I can see it.
Exactly.
Yep.
I couldn't see anything until about here.
Whoa.
Exactly. Which means, why would a person stay still if you're not able to see if there's a bear coming at you from the side? Yeah. So now I'm going to talk a little bit from the provider perspective, which I later understood, is that if there is a threat next to you and you're not able to see it, your head is going to do what? Constantly look for it.
I'm probably going to be nervous.
Making sure. Exactly. So of course I couldn't stay still. I was looking side to side because I didn't know if I was safe.
Yeah.
But by that time I was already on medications. And by that time, I was already in a whole bunch of different therapies and parameters. And that meant getting glasses. And that meant getting glasses that were half red, half blue. And what does that mean in elementary school with a lot of kids around you and being printed papers that are this big to be able to write a test? Bullying. There we go. Ding, ding, ding. So a lot of bullying happened and a lot of just changing in your body. Like that's prime time for a kid to grow into themselves and grow into this new body and spikes of growth, you know? And I was playing volleyball and I was playing basketball and I used to be a dancer. So I was always very, very active. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I started getting random spikes of fever, shaking in my body.
Whoa.
Nobody would understand anything. And a few years before all that, my little cousin had passed from something else. So all of a sudden they were like, oh my gosh, she has the same thing.
Yeah. Did they know what your cousin passed from?
Yes, blood clotting disorders that he had. And at that time, we didn't have really the advancements to understand what was going on. And then he got a bacteria from something. And
yeah.
So nonetheless, Veronica has to go to the hospital. I swear I spent about 4 years of my elementary life in the hospital.
Oh my God.
In and out, not in school.
So what age? What, 6 to 10?
Yeah, 6 to 12.
Oh yeah. My God.
6 to 12. Which you're not a cool kid by being in the hospital all the time, you know, and you just want to have and enjoy life.
Yeah.
But the doctor said, hey, she shouldn't be playing sports. So they took me off of sports. She shouldn't be dancing. So they took me off of dancing. She shouldn't do X, Y, and Z. So I no longer have a medium to be a child. And, you know.
Did they know what was going on?
So I got so many diagnoses. It's hilarious
to me right
now.
Like a 6-year period.
Yeah. I got diagnosed with lupus, which is a rheumatoid systemic thing. I got diagnosed with von Willebrand disease, which is a blood clotting disorder, same one that had my little cousin. Mm-hmm. I got diagnosed, the ADHD still stands, and some brain development issues, right? Because why is her brain didn't develop to that point where she could see? So definitely a lot of things. So in 6th grade, all right, we're 11, right? 11.
Okay.
We're 11. I was graduating 6th grade because that school only goes till 6th grade. In Puerto Rico, you have graduations for everything. That's we celebrate. You have an excuse for celebrating. We're celebrating. Period.
I love that.
So 6th to 7th grade, you're going from elementary school to middle school. You have an actual fully ceremony graduation thing. Sorry, my sister, she was graduating from high school to college. So big celebration same year. My mom was graduating from her master's degree. So all 3 of us were graduating. Yeah. So my dad was like, I need to do something for the girls, this and this and that. And he decides to take us to Disney. Now, I've never been to Disney before. You can imagine how excited I was. Yeah. Everybody was, right? And off we go after all the graduations during the summer to Disney in Florida. And it's my first trip, my very first time on a plane ever. I'm so excited. And, you know, to save some money at that time, you were able to take like plane rides at 1:30 in the morning. So that's the one that we took. And I have a very vivid picture of me and my sister just playing cards or something and like in the floor of the airport waiting for our plane. And get to Disney the next day when we wake up in the hotel. I go to stand up and I couldn't, my legs couldn't hold my weight. And my dad was like, what the heck what just happened, you know? And you look at my right leg and it was like a ham. It was purple. It was swollen. It had a big dark bruise in the back of the calf. My half of my leg was really, really hot as if it had a fever. And the other half was extremely cold as if it had no blood flow.
Oh my God.
So, of course, here we are now in Florida. I don't have any doctors or anything there. My dad is calling my pediatrician. Hey, this is going on. And he's like, take her to the hospital right now. I'm like, no, please.
Not the hospital.
Please, no. And somehow, some way, shape, or form, my parents decide, you know what? She's gonna have a real experience as a child. Fuck it. So the doctor was like, I don't agree with this, but if you're going to do it, make sure that she's in a wheelchair the whole time with her leg elevated. So they go and rent a wheelchair, and I spend the whole Disney in a wheelchair with my leg elevated. but I got to go to Disney. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Because at that point, you've had so many things happen to you. You're just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Let me be a kid and have fun.
Exactly. So we had the Disney experience. It was super awesome. Got back to Puerto Rico after 7 days in Disney. Was the first stop, the hospital. So they take me straight to the hospital. I had a DVT, a deep vein thrombosis. That means there's a blood clot in one of the arteries in my legs.
Is that from the plane ride? The pressure of the plane?
Exactly. Because I am not a very tall person.
And that was your first plane ride.
And that was my first plane ride. So I sat for 4 hours with my legs underneath my body, so that I'm a little bit
sitting
more
on
taller.
top of them?
Yeah, sitting on top of them for 4 and something hours straight, which means that blood flow can't go into your legs, and eventually you can cause a clot. Mm-hmm.
Wow. So
all of a sudden now I'm in like injections that literally burned me from the inside out. It was terrible, to be honest.
11, 12?
11, yeah. And everybody, all the doctor was like, how is it that an 11-year-old has a DVT that's not even seen in the books? Yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, yeah, 1%. Here we go again. I'm always the 1%.
Just not the 1% you want.
Yeah, definitely not the 1% that I want, you know? But after some time, a friend of my mom's went to the hospital and advised her some supplements. And my mom, out of the blue, she prayed on it and she said, you know what? No more. I'm tired. My daughter is always just suffering all these things. So she took me off every medication and started me on supplements.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, Veronica was able to do a whole bunch of stuff. Everything.
Oh my gosh.
And I was healthy. Like, I was healthy. So I'm thinking, oh, maybe I should become a doctor. Right? And I was so sure, Jordan, I was going to be an orthopedic surgeon.
Yep.
I was so sure. Like, that's all I was called for, you know. My sister was finishing chemical engineering, and all of a sudden she came home and she was like, I'm going to medical school now. I'm like, who does chemical engineering and then medical school? But
hard pivot.
Yeah. You go ahead.
How much older is your sister than you?
6 years, 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she went to medical school, and I'm like, I'm starting college, right?
Yep.
I got into the physics department. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm so smart. But I did physics and a minor in recreational sports because I've been an athlete my whole life.
Yeah.
And by the time that I got healthier after my mom changing me to supplements and things like that, I got back into sports and I got back into dancing and cheerleading and gymnastics and all these other things that I fell in love with.
Yep.
And were my way of communicating to myself that I loved myself. Right.
So 11, 12, your mom takes you off all the supplements or all the medications, and puts you onto supplements.
Mm-hmm.
How quickly after that, like, was it like a month or two? Like, you really start to see differences very quickly?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You stop providing your body with this random chemicals.
What were you thinking at that time? Because that's an old enough age to where you start making decisions for yourself and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. Prior to her making that decision, how were you feeling?
I was the person that you had to fight with to be able to take the meds always.
Got it. Because you probably felt brain fog. I'm assuming you
100%.
Things you don't even know that you shouldn't be feeling as a kid, you were feeling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's brutal.
Super tired. I will fall asleep in any corner. I was sick all the time. I was just tired
It's
of
just
it.
problem after problem after problem. Damn.
Yeah.
Okay, so you go off all the medication, you go into supplements, you get back to sports. I know you were very big into gymnastics, into cheerleading. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
Yeah. And
you got your life back.
I got my life back. And I'm in college and I'm having a good time and whatnot. And I'm so sure I'm going into medical school.
Yep.
And that's how a big pivot in my life happened of healthcare.
Yeah.
I didn't really know that there was such term as holistic medicine. That wasn't something that we were ever exposed to. And at that time, you didn't have like the world in your hands through a phone either.
No.
So,
So why did your mom take you off the medication?
I don't know.
Because present day, like, that's like, oh yeah, of course, take her off the medication, do holistic.
Right.
First of all, that could get your child taken away from you.
100%.
Yeah. Did you ever talk to her about that?
We've talked about it. So she wanted to like this conference thing where they explained so it was transfer factor. So transfer factor comes from a derivative of milk, and specifically from cow milk, right? Now, transfer factor is the first one of the ingredients that has breast milk that you pass to your child so that they can create an immune response, or that they can create an immune system, right? So this company had created transfer factor on a tablet. And my mom went to a conference. It just made sense to her. I'm like, if she was healthy when she was a baby, after breastfeeding, and babies make their immune system, but with breastfeeding in the first months, why not take her back to that? So we went back to essentials. And she doesn't really, I ask her all the time. She's like, I just felt safe by doing so. And she just went out of a feeling. Damn. And I think like we are all always exposed with ideas that are out of a feeling. They feel so good, but we don't take them and we don't follow them because they're not socially acceptable. Yep. You know, which is a whole nother conversation.
Oh yeah, I was going to say we'll dive more into that, trusting in your gut and intuition. So, you graduate high school, you're in college, and I know that's what got you focused on medical, and you were going to be an orthopedic surgeon.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then hard pivot.
Hard pivot. So on a Sunday afternoon, out of the blue, my dad decides that there's something wrong with the ceiling of the house and he needs to fix it because that's who he is. And I'm telling you, like, my dad is the spirit of our household. He's so funny. And I feel like I have that funniness. Hopefully I do, after him. But he's always been like, I've always been daddy's girl and whatnot. When he was going into the roof, his ladder broke and he landed half on concrete, half on soil.
How far of a fall?
About 14 feet.
Oh.
So with that, of course, there's a lot of trauma. Yeah. A lot of spine things, hip things, arm broken, ribs dislocated, a whole bunch of trauma, right? And we call 911 and strike one. It takes 3 hours almost for the ambulance to get there.
Oh my God.
Strike one. And I'm like, how in the world? And now Puerto Rico is real tiny. Like, we're 100 miles east to west and 35 miles north to south. Like, that's how big Puerto Rico is. Come on. You know?
No.
Take him to the hospital. There's only one trauma center back home. That's how small the island is. So they take him to the trauma center. It's packed. He doesn't even have a room. They don't have providers. So he's just waiting in the hallway in a random table with pain meds to just help calm him down. And I remember thinking, how is it that you guys are the people that I admire the most and you cannot save the person that means the most in my life? It doesn't make sense. So eventually they went in, he got his spine fused, he did a whole bunch of things, a lot of physical therapy. He was told that he wasn't really ever going to be able to walk or like just be himself again and jog and do all the things that he likes to do. And he was fully just dependent on his daughters to even go to the bathroom, you know? So it wasn't until a few months after his cousin took him to the chiropractor against his will. And he was like, we have to do something, anything. Now, we've never heard of chiropractic.
Because at that point, he was the same. It was not getting better.
Not getting better. And it had just been a few months after the accident. I took him to a chiropractor and my dad came back with a light that I hadn't seen in a while.
Wow.
And we didn't know what it was, but we just kind of like, shaking it off or whatever, cool. In about 3 months, my dad was the exact same person he was before, but better. He was jogging every morning. He could ride his bike with a group. He was able to just do the things that he loved to do. Be as excited, go to the roof of the house on a random Sunday for no reason, just because something had to be done, And I said, that's it. Whatever that was, I don't know. I've never heard of chiropractic. I've never been myself in the chiropractic care. If I've heard something, it's kind of like a woo, ha ha type of thing. Sure, I'll get myself into care. I got myself into care, and by I think like second or third visit, I asked the chiropractor, I was like, hey, so how do you even study this? Where do you go? What happens with this? Like, what kind of like schooling do I need to have in preparation? And I had started asking a bunch of questions. He's like, 1 second, went to his office, came back with a sheet of paper. He's like, this is a school where you're going. They have an event on like a weekend thing so that you can explore the school you're going. And by the way, you're going to take your mom with you. And I said, yes, sir.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
How old were you then?
18. Yeah.
Dang.
So I got enrolled in the 3-day weekend, Life Leadership Weekend. It's an exposure thing. And notice the name Life Leadership Weekend, because that's something that I really loved and appreciate, is that they show you like different options for you to take, whether chiropractic is a calling for you or not. And
wow,
we went there, and by the second day, I was transferring schools.
You knew.
Oh, I knew. I knew immediately. As soon as that plane arrived in Atlanta, and I was received by the people that received me from the enrollment department, and the warmth, and I felt like I belonged, and I wasn't trying to make this thing happen, And I transferred. I finished that semester of schooling in Puerto Rico, December, and I arrived here December 28, 2012. Spent New Year's here with my family, and I think like January 4th or something was my first day of school, and it was amazing.
Damn.
Yeah.
Truly huge life pivot.
Yeah.
So your dad gets injured, severely injured,
Mm-hmm.
almost loses his entire quality of life, can't walk, needs
Mm-hmm.
help from his family.
Mm-hmm.
3 months later, he goes to the chiropractor.
Mm-hmm.
He gets his life back. You're introduced to it. You'd never heard of it at that point.
Mm-hmm.
You ask that chiropractor, where do I go? He tells you where to go.
Mm-hmm.
You do it. Do you feel like it was almost like you had found what you were called to do?
Absolutely.
Just didn't know?
Absolutely. It was, you know how like you receive the signs from whoever your higher power is constantly, and you're like, not now, but I want to do this. I want to do this. Oh, I said not now. And they're like, no. This is your calling. Go here.
Right now.
Like you no longer have an option, Yeah. So I took that.
Well, and it's also, and I'm sure you feel this way too, if you fight it for too long, bad things will happen until you go down the right path.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry, Dad, but you were the bad thing that had to happen for me to be a chiropractor today. Wink, wink.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
Okay. So you transfer. Had you been to Georgia before? Had you been to Atlanta? So you knew, because you'd been to the U.S. how many times?
Florida, the one time.
The one? No. That actually, was it?
No. I thought so. Yeah. Florida, but I had also gone to Wisconsin because it was a medical school there that they had offered me a scholarship to go to school there, University of Wisconsin Milwaukee, on cheerleading and gymnastics, and I was like, heck yeah, I'm going there. And then I was like, it's too cold. Absolutely not.
It's very cold there. That probably would have been a great school and great to do as well. So you move. Were you nervous about moving, or you're so excited that you'd found your calling? You're like, I'm good to go.
A little bit of both. Yeah. And I think that they're both the same kind of feeling depending on the angle that you look at it. And I can say that now, not then, right? It's the same part of the brain that tells you that you're excited or that you are nervous.
Yeah.
Like how many Olympic athletes are asked in an interview, are you nervous about this upcoming race? And they're like, oh, I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
It comes from the same part of the brain.
It does.
It's just a different lens.
It's balancing the two.
Mm-hmm.
So December 2012, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or 2011?
2012.
And then January 4th,
mm-hmm.
2013, you start classes at Life.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going from there.
Okay, so I transferred school, so I was doing undergrad.
Yep.
So I'm like, it's a quarterly system, which I loved, which means that you could technically do 4 years in 2 years if you like bump up your credits and stuff. So I'm like, I'm gonna go rush through it, and then I'm gonna do dual enrollment, and I'm gonna do undergrad and DC at the same time.
So you still need your undergrad degree
mm-hmm.
before you can get into the chiropractor school?
No.
Tell me about it. I didn't go to college, so I don't
good.
know.
Oh, you're good. So not necessarily. And same thing with also like medicine and whatnot. You have to do pre-med and you have to do pre-DC. Is the same kind of concept. But for depending on what you want to practice at, for example, right now the laws in Puerto Rico require you to have a undergrad degree before starting chiropractic school in order to practice chiropractic there.
Okay.
Got it. So it just depends where you wanted to end up at. But for me, I just wanted to end up in chiropractic school. It didn't matter anything else.
I gotta
exactly.
get there,
So my plan was to take all my prereqs, get into the program, and then do dual enrollment by taking full load of the DC program, the chiropractic program. DC stands for Doctor of Chiropractic, and do half load of the undergrad at the same time. So technically, upon graduation, I walked through the stage twice. I walked once for my undergrad and once for my DC.
Nice.
Right. But I guess, that's things are not always as you plan them.
Nope. Most of the time they're not.
I was able to do all the prereqs in 1 year, and I started chiropractic school in 2014.
Dang. So you flew by.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I was like, I'm here for this reason and this reason only, and I'm going to go through it. In March of 2014, the beautiness of understanding and getting so in touch and in tune with my body, I knew that there was something wrong. I was like, I don't know. There's something wrong in here. And I started going to different doctors. I'm like, I don't know. There's something wrong. And they were like, there's something wrong. I'm like, no, I know there's something wrong.
When you say there was something wrong, what were you feeling?
First and foremost, it was more of I just couldn't be my full self. I was extremely exhausted and tired, which for a college student that is taking this many classes is like, oh, that's expected, right? You're barely sleeping. You're taking courses over a period of 11 weeks and you're just cramping everything in. But I was also not, every time I ate, I had extreme pain, like stomach and digestive pain. And my period was a little bit irregular. And everybody was just like, no, just your stress, your hormones, you're young, you're fine, you're healthy. This one specific doctor, I went to her and I was like, can you just, please, I know there's something wrong. And so she did. Bruh, I got cancer. What? Dun, dun, dun.
What type of cancer did they diagnose you?
Reproductive system, so cervical cancer.
When you're 20 years old.
20. But yeah, the doctor said, I don't know how you knew, but you knew, and now these are the next steps to take. And I said, you know what? Give me a second. Let me think about this. And I still to this day apologize to my family because I decided I come from a very traditional medical family.
Yeah.
And knowing the experiences that I've had in the past and how I've just lived such a big chunk on like hospital settings and stuff like that, I decided to not get them involved in this news. Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
I didn't tell anyone.
So when you found out, were you alone? Were you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I told a coworker. And she was like, what are you doing here? And I was like, I don't know.
Oh my God. What?
I don't know.
I mean, first of all, I'm so sorry you were even diagnosed with that.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like when that news hit you? Did you believe it at first?
I believed it because I just knew there was something wrong. I just didn't know what the name was, which is I think this is something very important to say. When we're giving diagnoses from any perspective, a lot of the times when we receive them, we become them. And I decided that wasn't my identity. I just decided that was a journey, a part of thing that I had to walk through. And that's something that I today tell my patients. I'm like, your symptoms, your diagnostics is not who you are. You are a healing full being with the name of, for example, Jordan Nagoli.
Mm-hmm.
But that's about it. That's all you are, Jordan Nagoli, this healing full being who happens to be experiencing these things.
Yeah.
That's it.
Do you think that was because you were labeled as the sick girl growing up? You were always in the hospital and you're like, I don't want to have this identity anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I can keep going. You probably didn't want to leave school. You don't want to leave your life you were building.
Mm-hmm.
So you get the diagnosis of cervical cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you go from there?
I told my doctor, you know what? I'm going to walk my talk, which means that if I am sharing this message of the power that makes the body, heals the body, I just need to give it its right tools. I'm going to go ahead and do that route. And she said, don't do that. You're going to die. And I'm like, I need your support. I want to do this with you.
Yeah. And
she was like, fine, I'll give you 9 months.
Was there a stage? Was it stage 1? I'm not as familiar with how cancer works. So is it, what were you at?
So I was at stage 1. Yeah. I was at stage 1 with the imaging that they did. That's how you get given a stage. It's according to how much of it or how little of it there is in your body and whether it's not its spread.
So if you had not gone to the doctor.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
You really may not have survived.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Holy shit. So she says she's going to give you 9 months.
Right.
Are you then making your own treatment protocol? Where do you go from there?
Yeah, I was in school for, I'm in the largest chiropractic school, vitalistic centric, which means the power that makes the body heals the body. There has to be people around here. So I just asked professors for guidance. I asked random doctors I met at seminars and trainings. I was like, hey, I remember that you had mentioned you did this, and that. And then I also got in contact with the person that was doing the trainings for the chiropractic board, Dr. D'Onofrio, who is no longer with us. And he's like, oh, I have a protocol for that. I got you. And he's so nonchalant about it. I love that. I love not being looked at it as if I was sick.
Oh, you got that? Take this.
Yeah. He's like, my client's in Philadelphia. I'll do some blood work. I'll do some this. You need to do this, this, and that. You have to change your life 180 degrees. You have to eliminate all these hormones from your body, which means that you have to eat very, very clean. So raw, vegan, all the stuff. You need some IV therapies for minerals and vitamins. You need some ion therapy, and you need some emotional work. It's like you have to believe that it doesn't belong in your body in order for you to actually excrete it. You decide.
So mind, body, spirit.
Everything. Yeah.
Treatment protocol.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give some specific examples of what that looks like physically? Like what kind of stuff would you eat? What changes did you have to make?
So in Puerto Rico, our diets are very fried based, very pork and a lot of seasoning, and it's very yummy. But it's not necessarily what my body needed at the time. Mm-hmm. And I had to change what I bought, anything and everything from changing from milk, cow milk to this thing called almond milk that I didn't even really know that it was a thing at that time. And there's very few options at that time also.
Yeah.
So understanding I did a lot of almond milk and cow milk, for example, became vegan, became raw vegan for a while.
What's the difference?
So by raw is that everything that I'm eating, nothing is being cooked. Nothing is being hot.
Oh,
yeah.
As you can see, I would not handle that well.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I also had to do. That's where I found like my new pattern of like meditation and journaling. Mm-hmm. You have a question?
No.
Yeah. Meditation and journaling and like all of these more spiritual things, going back to the Bible, because that's where I grew up in. And what does my spiritual life look like? And where do I put myself into? I did a lot of IV treatments with, again, minerals and vitamins, and a lot of supplements. And remember that transfer factor I talked to you about when I was 11 and 12?
Yep.
I got back into that, which I had stopped taking for a while. And I was like, Veronica. I got back into that. And there's this beautiful place in Florida called Hippocrates. And it's very similar to the wonderfulness of where I work today, Progressive, because it's looking into your body's potential of healing rather than this random thing that you got called all over your body, right? So I did a lot of those therapies, and I read a lot of books, and yeah.
And at what point? So you were feeling sick prior to the diagnosis. Mm-hmm. How long into the treatment did you start to see results for yourself?
I think that the first 30 to 45 days were rough because you're changing everything that who you are and how you've grown up as, and then all of a sudden changing it into what your ideal self would be. They were rough, but I started getting a lot more energy after that 45-day mark, and I started feeling a lot like myself, and I was no longer depressed or anxious or all these other mental things. I started getting in tune with the power of who I am. And I would say that by 2 months in, I was like, oh, I am healthy.
Do you think you felt like such shit at the beginning because you were probably releasing your body of toxins that
Absolutely.
were in there and it was going through a detoxification process?
Absolutely. 100%.
I'm sure you thought about this, and millions of people ask the same question. How did it happen? Like, was it, I guess, your environment and stress and food?
Mm-hmm.
How did it come about?
So, to be honest, this is a question that I still to this day sometimes dabble with.
Yeah.
I sometimes think, hey, was it the fact that I was so sick and I was over medicated for so long that it just, right?
Whoa.
You didn't even think of it. Like,
yeah, because you were 6 or 7 years straight of hardcore medication.
Absolutely.
Destroys your gut, destroys your immune system.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
So if I go there, there's that piece of it. Like all the stressors of life, having moved to a different country, a language that I didn't speak as my first language before, like that's another full stress in your body. So the way that I categorize things now as a provider and like I reflect on it is the 3 T's: your thoughts, toxins, and trauma, right? So the trauma can be physical trauma. So how many times did I fall, that I injured? Also repetitive trauma, but also the trauma of the day that I was born. That's trauma for both my mom and myself, and we're connected. We are one at that time. Therefore, I receive everything that she's going through. But the thought piece of it, how much doubt do I have? I'm moving into this different country. Am I really going to be able to do this? You know, it was a true question. And the toxins piece of it, I grew up in Spam. Quite seriously.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And corned beef. And oh my gosh, it's still one of my favorite things. So every other Friday or so, my mom would get us Tostitos chips. And we would put marinara sauce on top and shredded cheese. So kind of make a pizza, pop it in the microwave for about 45 seconds to a minute. Everything is melted. That's your dinner. But it's delicious.
It sounds delicious.
It's delicious.
Not nutritious.
No.
But delicious.
Not at all.
Dang.
Yeah.
So were you still in school?
Yeah.
During this?
So the doctor said, hey, you need to quit school. You need to focus on like getting better. And when I was like, that's the only thing in my life that I have for sure. I can't let go of that, which meant that I had to decrease. We came into an agreement. I had to decrease the amount of credits that I was taking. So the amount of stress that was in my body wasn't overpowering my body from sleeping and healing. So what should have taken me 3.5 years to 4 years of graduating, it ended up being 5.5 years. Right. Yeah. And I would see, and because I didn't share this with anyone, I would see my classmates go through the classes and being however many more quarters ahead. And I was like, man, I just want to go to clinic, but I can't because I'm still taking like 4 classes only.
And they didn't know what was going on with you?
Nobody knew. I would show up to class every day and be like, hey, what's up, guys? We're here.
So you didn't tell your family because you thought that they were going to try to persuade you to go the more traditional route?
Oh, yeah. Knowing the beautifulness and powerness of my mom, she would have taken the plane and she would be like, grab me by the ear and be like, you're going right now to an oncologist and this is what we're doing.
Which I don't blame.
Yeah. She's trying to save her daughter. Absolutely.
I don't blame them for wanting to do that. Plus, you're scared. Mm-hmm. Everyone is scared. That's scary to hear about. So I can't even imagine what it's like to go through it. You told a coworker, and your doctor knew.
My coworker's mom, I didn't know this at that time. She was a Reiki healer.
Wow.
All of a sudden, she starts doing Reiki from Brazil to here. Yep. And then when she came to visit her daughter, she did a lot of work on me at that time.
It's powerful.
It's so powerful. I had never been exposed to it before. And she actually was the one that recommended me to do a lot of acupuncture. So I was doing acupuncture 2 times a week also. And a lot of ion healing. So yeah.
So it was a lot of getting your body rid of toxins. Yeah. Only putting, at that time, raw foods into your body. Balancing your body. And preparing for the interview. I call it research. It's really stalking. It's a lot of in-depth stalking.
He said stalking.
I watched one of the videos you put up on Instagram, I think a couple of years ago, sharing that story, which was beautiful, by the way, and very strong of you to do. But you said this. You said, all organic bodies have the capability to self-regulate, self-maintain, and self-heal under the right conditions, you don't have to wait for a diagnosis to make a change.
Boom.
Could you speak on that a little bit?
Absolutely. That is the definition of vitalism. That is the definition of a vital life, right? Your body, nobody told it to grow inside your mom's womb. Your body was never told to heal from that one cut that you had with a knife because you were playing a few years back. Your body was never told of any of these things, right? And whether or not you put a Band-Aid over that cut, your body was still going to heal, right?
Yeah.
So your body does have the capability of self-regulating, so maintaining a balance, right? Self-maintaining, which means that now everything has to stay calm, and self-heal, which means that you didn't look at that cut and kept saying, all right, white blood cells, let's go. Chop it up and attack. Yes, yes, yes. Now we have a scab. Make sure the scab stays put in place. No. You don't need to tell it what to do, right? So it gets a job done. It's the best and only thing I can rely on for getting the job done is my body. 100%. But can it do it when you're filling it up with the toxins and the negative thoughts and the non-balance of spirituality? Now that is a different statement, right? That's a different environment, because now your body is not worried about whether or not it can perform to its optimum. Is worried about whether or not you're going to survive today, and then in the next minute today, and then in the next minute today, and the next. It's just surviving.
Yeah,
that's not healing. That's not performing. That's not loving. That's not being. So yes, your body is capable of doing all of these magical, wonderful things under the right conditions.
How did you stay positive and strong, and I guess keep going during that time? Because I think for a lot of people listening, they have had family members that have had cancer, or they've had it themselves, and it's, I'm sure, debilitating mentally, physically, emotionally. And I'm sure not every day was perfect and positive. But how did you keep going?
That's a beautiful question, because I actually answered this question with a cancer patient yesterday. I think that you have to go through the ups and downs, and you have to allow your body to have some downs, because sometimes those downs, I need to stay in bed today, it's just your body telling you that it needs to recoup some energies so that it can fight tomorrow. I also think that you should never do what I did of not telling your support system what you were going through.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, like it can become really lonely, and that's not cool. And I guess it's just projecting. I did a lot of projecting, seeing myself healed, seeing myself better. So projecting yourself into what will your body look like when it's healed, when you're out of there. And also those family members that have had friends or loved ones that have been diagnosed, can you also project for them for the days that they cannot project for themselves? That's important. And also a lot of reading and meditation and going inward. It's important. It's so important.
So it's clear, I think everyone knows how you eat and what you take is clearly going to affect you. I think it's not discussed. I mean, obviously present day it is more, but people really don't talk about that for injuries, which is the mental side. And yeah, we're gonna dive more into that later on, but that is really important for anything that you're going to. It may not even be an injury. It could be trauma. It could be emotional trauma, but that mental side will really hold you back, especially the sleeping at night. It will really impact sleeping. So you go through, so you have 9 months from the doctor. You're feeling better a few months in. Walk me through that. How often are you going to this doctor?
I just saw her. I saw her when I got diagnosed. I saw her about 2 weeks or so afterwards, telling her what the plan was. She was in contact with Dr. D'Onofrio from Philadelphia for a while, and I saw her at my 3 or 4 month mark, and I saw her at my 9 month mark, and we did all the testing in 9 months. There was nothing in my body.
Oh my God!
And she was like, "What the heck?" And she was ready. She was ready to be like, "All right, chemotherapy, this, that, blah, blah, blah." She was like, what? And I've seen her maybe like 4 or 5 times afterwards just to say hello, to be honest. That's pretty much it.
How did it feel when you got that diagnosis back that the cancer was no longer in your body?
I felt very liberating and like I wanted to celebrate. But I also felt like, oh shit, I need to let people know.
So at that point, still no one knew.
Mm-mm.
How did that go?
Oh, I told them years afterwards.
Oh.
Yeah.
Your family?
Uh-huh.
How many years afterwards?
Probably like 2 or 3 years. Yeah.
And how did that go?
My mom was so mad.
I believe it.
Yeah. Putting myself in her shoes.
How did you approach that conversation? Did you sit them down? Was this in person?
Yeah, it was in person.
Okay,
I had gone home for like, I think it was like the holidays or something like that. I had gone home. I don't remember very well what we were talking about. I just, my parents were laying down in their bed and I'm just in their bedroom, like just talking to them, just all nonchalant. And when I'm like, hey, so yeah, guys, so this happened. I wanted to let you guys know because I'm scared that it's going to happen again. So I had that PTSD creeping up on me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I told them, that's the first time that I cried from that diagnosis.
Wow.
When I let them know, my dad was heartbroken. My mom was heartbroken and mad. And I was like, I'm sorry that I just, at that time, I couldn't involve you.
In hindsight, if you had involved them, do you think things would have gone differently? And it not have...
Maybe, probably. Yeah. Not something I really like reflect on or think much of.
Yeah.
But most likely. Not in a negative or a positive way, just different.
Well, it also goes back to your gut and your intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And again, for everybody listening, she clearly said, tell your family. If something is
tell your family.
Tell your family if something is going on. Do not hide stuff from them. However, at some point, I do think there are crucibles that some people will have to bear on their own. Even if you tell other people, you're the one that has to go through it.
100%.
And also, which is just going to sound, let me think of how to word this so it doesn't sound weird. You had not training, but experience with dealing with physical obstacles before,
Mm-hmm.
Severe sickness, and basically doctors telling you, like, you're not going to be able to do this, you can't do this, and this is not going to work out.
Yo, my parents got told that I wasn't going to live past 18.
What the fuck? What?
In the midst of everything, when I was in elementary school, that they couldn't understand what's going on with my body. And then all of a sudden I have blood clots and I have all these random things. They were told that. And I think also now thinking about it, reflecting, that's why my mom could have been like, then she's not going to live. Fuck it. She's going to have the best time now. Yeah.
That makes sense. Why the fuck why did they do that? Why did it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Why? I've heard that of many times. The doctors told me I wouldn't be able to rotate my back again.
Uh-huh.
What the fuck? Why did they say that like definitively?
It's so sad, man. It's so sad. So the NET, the neuro-emotional technique that I practice, I've been through it myself a lot of times. And one of the biggest things for me is, remember when I told you that I went to several doctors telling them that there was something wrong with my body and nobody would listen? I'm like, why? Why? You should be the first person to be like, okay, let's figure it out then.
Yeah.
But I also understand that there's people that a lot of the things are not in their physical state, they're in the mental state. Which is still it's still an ask for help.
It's your body.
It's a cry for help, right? I don't know why they do that.
Yeah.
I have no clue.
Well, I just think if you tell one person that may not have as strong of a or a resilience in them, that'll crush people. They will stop trying, and that's not okay.
It's not.
Hope is powerful.
Yeah.
Hope is powerful.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you you yourself get rid of the cancer, which is fucking amazing. I'm so thrilled for you that happened.
Thank you.
You tell your family years later. Obviously, you have, I would imagine, anxiety and trepidation about it coming back again. Since then, that's 6 or 7 years ago. Has there been any? Has there been any cases of it coming back? But also, you've maintained your extremely healthy lifestyle since then. So you probably never went back to the stuff you were doing before.
I wouldn't say never for sure. I guess that there's like, I've explored some of the things. I'm like, does my body still want like this? No, it doesn't, Veronica. Why do you keep trying? It doesn't like that. But I guess I've maintained most of my healthy lifestyle. And a lot of people ask me all the time, like, would you ever eat meat again? I'm like, I mean, I would if my body needed it.
Yeah.
But it's right now, it's not what made me healthy, and what gave me health and what gave me power to my body was not having it.
Yeah.
So I don't really need to have it right now. Unless it changed. And your body changes all the time. So
it does change, and what your body needs changes. So you've been vegan for 6 years, 7 years now?
Almost 9 years.
Almost 9 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You get the diagnosis that you're free from cancer. You're still now. Did you then pick back up more in school and ramped up the schedule? So all right, let's keep going through your story since then. So you're back at school full time. Walk me through then until, I guess, graduation.
Chiropractic school is very challenging and very beautiful. And I think that with any type of schooling in any school that you go to, it's something that you have to put in however much you want to take out of it. And I got very involved in school and clubs and activities. I became like a student ambassador, and I became part of this technique club and this business club. And I had a work study, and I had a business outside of school, and I was working. So I stayed myself super busy. Always go, go, go. And I've always had that quality of myself that I'm like, all right, I had this idea. It's going to be a goal now. And now all of a sudden we're going to make it happen. So I went through it.
Where do you think that comes from? That drive and that internal motivation?
I don't know. And sometimes I don't like it. Straight up.
I'm sure it's hard to shut off sometimes.
Sometimes I'm just like, can you not work? Can this brain just calm down?
Can this shut up? Can this head? I'm the same way. I'm at 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think maybe a lot of observation. My dad has always been a super hardworking person. So most likely a lot of it from him. My dad was like, I'm a workaholic. I am going to ask you, for the sake of your future family, your life, don't be one. And that's something that my dad told me a few years back, and it still resonates with me every time I find myself. I'm like, oh, I haven't had a day of a break in however long. I'm like, oh, yeah, I should get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rest is important.
Rest is important.
So while in school at Life University, you're doing a lot of different activities. You're an ambassador. You're taking classes. At what point, how long is the DC program? How long is that schooling? So
if you do full load, which means that you're taking between 25 and 32 credit hours per quarter. A quarter is 10 weeks, and the 11th week is your finals. And then between your winter quarter and your spring quarter, you have 1 week break. Between your spring quarter and your summer quarter, you have 3 weeks breaks. And then between summer and fall, you have 1 week. Between fall and winter, you have 3 weeks. So you have a full calendar, right? If you do full load, you graduate in 3.5 years. Okay. If you do modified schedule, which means that you're taking a little bit less load than between 20 and 25 credit hours, which is still a whole lot, you are about 4 years, 4.25-ish.
So it's a packed schedule.
Oh, 100%.
All the time.
All the time.
At what point do you start learning how to adjust?
The politically correct answer to this question is on your second year.
Okay.
Because now something to understand is that you don't go into a body and you just crack, snap, and pop. Like, it's not a thing.
No, you hurt someone.
Exactly. So you need to, number one, develop your tactile sensation, which is very important. And I love the roommate that I had at that time because he taught me that. He used to, one day he came home, he was like, I'm going to help you develop your tactile sensation. I'm like, all right, cool. And he grabs a hair and puts it on a notebook. And he's like, just tapes it. And he passes the first page and he's like, find the hair work from start to beginning. And I start to find the hair from start to beginning.
What?
Past the next page. All of a sudden you have passed 30 pages and can you still identify where the hair starts and ends?
What is the purpose and meaning behind that training?
Right. So now I have to develop that into what is normal into Jordan's body versus abnormal into Jordan's body. How does that bruised apple feeling, which is edema, which is inflammation in the body, feels for you versus muscle hyperactivity? Right.
That's so fascinating.
It's so amazing.
You're you're bringing up a point I want to talk about later because. And I have this question. I really think you and chiropractors have like not X-ray vision, MRI vision. That's what amazing. I'm calling it. Because you don't look. I've seen you close your eyes while running your hand on a patient's back and like touching the spot. It's very cool. Yeah. And so that's how you train and to feel the differences. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. Have you ever seen there's like video project thing that happened a few years ago? I think in the United Kingdom, where they brought blind people in to with a designer or like an artist, and they would carve based on the description of what they felt their person looked like. They would carve their person and it would be the exact same person.
Oh my God.
It's a blind person that's never seen you.
No, I've not heard of that, but we'll be watching that after.
It's so amazing. That video, I love it. But that describes exactly that. Our hands have the capability of feeling so much, whether it's from energy, which is a whole nother conversation, to the actual shape and form of this glass, of this cup. Right?
Yep.
And if it has a ridge that might not be perfect to the eye, you can pass your finger through. It's like, oh, there's a ridge there. That's an imperfection of it.
Wow.
You're never going to be able to see it, but you can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, yeah, I think that's one of the coolest things about the chiropractic school is that they help you from your second quarter start developing that, which is important. The first quarter, the first 10 weeks of school, you're taking a lot of basic sciences and it's a little bit more draggy. It's just all about learning the basics of it, learning the anatomy of the body, learning the terminology, learning the physiology, learning all these things. Right. But then you start in your second quarter, you start palpating. And are you able to identify where the cervical spine starts and ends, and the thoracic spine where it starts and ends? Bony prominences, which are the easiest thing to feel on a body, is bony prominences. Like, can you feel the tip of your elbow? Okay, that's a bony prominence. So things like that.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So, do you remember the first time you got to adjust someone and like you felt their bones crack, and you're like, "Oh, I did that."
Your bones cracked. That's funny. Yeah. Yeah, I was actually in a lab. We were doing full spine, which is the first technique that you learn. And I adjusted thoracic spine, which is the mid back. Mm-hmm. And I adjusted, and I am almost 100% sure that I had what's called double thenar contact, which means that your hands are by the side of the spine and you're contacting with your thenar, which is the base of your thumb. And I had already done, we had looked at the x-ray of the patient, which is a classmate. We had already done muscle palpation and we had done motion palpation. And I'm going to adjust, and I adjusted, and that person, that student, I remember that he picked up his head, looked at me, did like this. I high-fived him, and I was like, heck yeah.
It worked.
It works. It works. I'm like, yeah, I can do this.
I got
superpowers. Yeah. So I think that was my very first adjustment.
That's amazing. That's got to feel good. Were you nervous? I would be nervous.
100%.
Yeah.
Profusely sweating through every part of my body. It was great. Yeah.
That's amazing. So walk me through up till graduation. Anything else outstanding,
oh my God,
crazy?
No, thank you.
Okay.
No, graduation was beautiful and special. I'm a very high, vibrant, very active person. So I stay super involved in campus. I I made sure I made best friends with like everyone from the president to the janitor. And like, I was always that person.
Yep.
Had the blessing of graduating undergrad in 2018. I walked. And March 2019, which is your first quarter of the year, I walked for my chiropractic.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so cool. It was so cool. Yeah.
And you got them both done. Yeah.
I got both done. Yeah. My mom was like, finally. Just
you had some obstacles
like,
along the way. Come on.
I made it.
Give me a break.
No, just kidding. She was super proud.
That's amazing. Yeah. And then that got you into your next stage of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you graduate in 2019.
Yes.
What are your plans after graduation? What did you do?
Oh my goodness.
I know it's crazy.
It's so stressful to decide what you're going to do for the rest of your life, you know?
Yeah.
You've only known the student life for, I don't know, 20 of your 22 years. Like that it is what it is, right? So I have all these beautiful options and ideas and wishes and stuff. And I decided to book a trip to Thailand. And I just left. Yep.
As you should.
And it was the most amazing. I went to a sanctuary and I stayed in a self-healing place. I needed to find who I was to an extent of like who Veronica the professional is going to be, right? And I started doing going to corporate offices around when I came back from Thailand, around Atlanta, and I was doing ergonomic trainings and I would do treatments there. So I had a mobile clinic and I had the beautifulness of working at the university and the advancement perspective and giving back to the school in that way, which I loved. And then COVID happened. And are there any more corporate offices meeting in person? Exactly.
Nope.
Exactly. Therefore, I no longer have that, but the beauty of a lot of those people that I did see in the corporate office start calling is like, hey, would you do a house call? I'm like, sure, why not? And house call after house call, all of a sudden, Whole Care was just this service provider to the homes. And it was just me. And that did a lot of wear and tear because like bringing down a heavy chiropractic table, setting it up in their whether it was their garage or their living room in their houses, getting everybody adjusted in the family, coming back into the car, driving another 15 miles to this other person, and so forth and so on. And the gym that I was attending, CrossFit 1490 in Marietta, the owner, Aaron, he was like, hey, do you mind taking care of me? I'm like, of course not. So I started taking care of him and he's like, oh, wow, you're good. And I'm like, well, thank you. Thank you, sir. And he offered me a space within the gym. And I was blown away by that idea and that beautiness of it. And all of a sudden, Whole Care was in CrossFit 1490 in Marietta.
When did you guys strike that deal, that partnership?
July 2020.
2020.
Yeah. So
COVID hits, the world shuts down. Mm-hmm. No one knows what's going on at that time. Screws up so many people's businesses, including yours. And then you find like things open up here in Georgia and you find a place to have a home for Whole Care.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
And searching and looking and in around late November of 2020, I was like, I need more. Yeah. I feel like I'm not quite fulfilling everything that I know I can fulfill. And I want to be part of an all-inclusive place because that's where I'm headed, you know? And out of the blue, I had it at a silver platter. Got interviewed at Progressive Medical Center and went through all the steps, and they were like, "Yeah, you're the right fit." And I was like, "Oh my God, this is so exciting!" So I had the opportunity now to be the chiropractor of a holistic health center that help people with chronic disease and cancer and acute disease and all this stuff from the same lens of how I've gotten to heal my body. So I said, heck yeah, that's where I should be. So I've been co-managing both of the positions, both at my private clinic and at Progressive. Yeah. In that way. Yeah.
Had you heard about Progressive before the interview?
Yes. 3 suspensive dots. I had worked when I was a student at another chiropractic office as like a front desk, a chiropractic assistant. And a patient had come in and gone through their weight loss program at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And she came in with all the paperwork and all the stuff. And she was telling me, she's like, oh, yeah, they do IVs, they do this, they do that. And I was like, oh, that sounds like Hippocrates, like the place that I went to in Florida. I didn't know there was one in here.
Yeah.
But that was kind of like it, the conversation. That was it. And then I was like, man, I should have known about this place a lot better, like before.
That's what everybody says.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you discovered that. Dang. And then we met, what, a couple weeks after you had started? Yeah.
I think like 2 weeks, if that.
Yeah.
2 weeks. Yeah. He got into my schedule. I was like, all right, cool. Let's do this. And we just went through the process.
Well, I remember, and that actually leads us perfectly because I have a lot of questions about being a chiropractor that I want to dive into.
Mm-hmm.
But for everyone to know, I was introduced to Dr. Garcia. I'd been a patient at Progressive Medical Center for years. Full disclosure, my dad is the founder of Progressive Medical Center back in 1999, 2000. So I've been raised and grown up around the holistic integrative medical space. But as all children and teenagers do, I didn't listen to what he told me to do. I didn't eat right. I didn't do stuff right. I suffered severely because of it. I've changed my ways now. But when we met, I was in a bad place. I was not in a good place.
Right.
My body was brutal. I had a back procedure not going right. I'd had multiple chiropractors and doctors I'd seen that would help a little bit, but similar to how you had experienced, you're not going to get better, Jordan. This is the best you can get.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan, there's nothing else we can do. Or Jordan, the pain's in your head. That one, I was like, pain's in my head. I wish you had a device where you could feel the pain. And then when we met, one of the things that stuck out to me the most was, you were an athlete. You've always been an athlete, but you understood from the very first time we had our sit down session, you listened to everything. We looked at all my MRIs, and then you sat me down at the table. We took my x-rays, and you started feeling across my body and doing tests to kind of see how I was feeling. And from there, I remember after my first couple sessions, I was like, yes, I finally found a provider that walks the talk. Which I don't think a lot have always done throughout their life.
Yeah.
And that started our journey together. And you've helped me a lot. So jumping into actually being a chiropractor, because I think you've got what people think it is, and then what it actually is. So for people that are listening, what goes into being a chiropractor? Because it's more than just adjusting people day to day.
Chiropractic has a very beautiful, wide realm, I would call it, where as a chiropractor, you're not only looking at, is this joint moving, or is it just stuck? My job is going to be to remove the stuckness, and then that's it. No. We're also looking at, how are you functioning? How is your system communicating with you? How are you adapting to the different stressors of the environment? Because as soon as we walk, as soon as the temperature drops to 34 degrees and yesterday was 52, that is a change of environment. That is a stressor. Yep. And are you adapting to that accordingly? Or are you going to fall into the category of a flu season? There's no such thing as a season of a disease. It's whether or not our bodies are capable to adapt to this change. So as a chiropractor, I am looking for, how is your body performing optimally? And is your body receiving what it needs to receive in order to perform optimally? Now, there is, like I said, a huge realm of chiropractic, and I don't think that there's anything that's wrong or right with them. I think you just need to find the right provider for you.
Yes.
And I have told patients before, I'm like, I think that I have served you to your fullest capacity, and now you need to be exposed to this other chiropractor that focuses and specializes in this other thing. And there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. No. And as a chiropractor, I'm looking specifically into the nervous system, because we have, of course, the brain in our beautiful skull, right? And from the brain, you have an attachment, an an extension of the brain that is your spinal cord. And from the spinal cord, you have all of these other lining thingies. And those lining thingies are your nerves. And your nerves communicate into every single cell, organ, tissue in your body. Right? And you receive communication from the brain down the spinal cord into your nerves, into that muscle telling it to contract so that you can pick up that glass. Or you can also be vice versa. That glass is super hot. As soon as you touch it, information is going to come from your finger, from that tactile sensation, up into those nerves, through the spinal cord, up into the brain to tell you something.
Yep.
Right? And for me as a chiropractor, I'm looking at what protects that spinal cord. I'm looking at your spine. Right? I'm looking at your peripheral nerves also. I'm looking at how well are you functioning, how well everything is communicating. So I love this description as a safety pin mechanism.
Yep.
So if you have a safety pin, right, and you have the safety pin open, the cycle is open. So communication from the brain through the spinal cord is going to go down into the body. The top is the brain, the bottom is the body of the safety pin. And then if it's open, it's not going to quite reach the brain. It's going to go away.
Yep.
But when your safety pin is actually closed, when your subluxation, when you've received a chiropractic adjustment that was perfect and in great alignment with what your body needed, that safety pin is going to get closed. And all of a sudden, a great cycle of communication is going to be able to flow freely through your body. And you can perform, you can adapt, you can change, and you can maintain.
That was a beautiful description.
Thank you.
That was a perfect description of it. So I've heard from many people over the years criticism of chiropractic services and, oh, that's crazy. That's not going to work. You're going to hurt yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Could you share with people listening the story that you shared with me about the chiropractors being imprisoned? Because that put a lot of perspective into why things are the way they are today.
Oh my God, I love it. Yes, absolutely. So when chiropractic was discovered, it was discovered by D.D. Palmer. And D.D. had his patient and the janitor of the building where he used to work. By the way, D.D. is an osteopath. The janitor hadn't been able to hear from one side. And he said that he didn't hear from the moment that he had an accident, and he felt and he heard a crack in his neck. And after that, he lost his ability to hear from one side. And D.D. going through all his brilliancy and whatnot in the research, he decides like, well, what if we do that again, but the opposite way? So he got D.D. adjusted, which now we call it an adjustment. He adjusted D.D.'s very first vertebrae, the atlas.
Yep.
Is there any nerve that you know of that goes from the atlas into your ear to make you hear? It doesn't exist. You don't have a spinal nerve that goes into your ear. Your ear is directly connected to your brain. So why would it help? Right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, D.D. was able to hear the clicking clock from the office. Oh, the idea was born. So chiropractic got later on developed into the profession by the son of D.D., B.J. Palmer. And a few years later, we start getting people into chiropractic care and start adjusting themselves, helping them get better. Oh, and the AMA was very, very angry. The American Medical Association was pissed off because all these wackos were practicing medicine without a license. But Jordan, what do you need in order to practice medicine?
A medical license.
Yeah. And you need to be able to provide actual medicine.
Yes. Oh, good point.
Are we prescribing medicine? No. So that was a takeaway. Now, a lot of chiropractors were incarcerated because of practicing medicine without a license.
What year are we talking now?
About 222 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. And chiropractors were now incarcerated for practicing medicine without a license. There's a specific chiropractor, Dr. Harvey. He was the most jailed chiropractor. And there's pictures of him in jail practicing chiropractic on the guards.
Oh my God.
That needed care. Because he didn't care. That's how much he believed in the power of this thing, this profession, that it simply empowered the body to perform and heal optimally. That's all it did. There was no additional X, Y, and Z to the body. It was simply, can we remove an interference?
Yeah.
Can we remove something that it's not quite where it's supposed to be and allow the body to do the work? I'm always honored, and I love when my patients call me the healer. And I'm sure you saw this a patient. Oh my God, bless. I love them so much. They gave me a letter, a card, calling me the wonderful healer. And I receive it and I accept it. And it's an honor to be that. But I don't heal you. You heal yourself. I'm just the bridge that allows you to get there.
Yeah, you're the guide.
Mm-hmm.
I do have that, the wonderful healer, on my notes right here. We'll talk about that. You had shared that story with me a few weeks ago, and that put into perspective for me on why even present day, because I have some friends, and that, for everyone listening, we are not shitting on other medicine. I think, and Dr. Garcia would agree, you need doctors of all kinds for very specific things. We are simply sharing our experiences of what we've gone through. And we want other people, because you have to do what's best for yourself and for your family. And also, it's just good to educate yourself.
Absolutely.
That's it. Even if you don't do it, if you understand it and learn about it, don't just take what one person says. Do your research for yourself, on both sides. But that gave a good perspective on present day, why that happens. And we won't get into it, but, I think Big Pharma has a huge role to play in that now of, what makes them revenue,
Absolutely.
And when you heal someone for a long period of time, they don't have to keep getting the medication and they don't have that reoccurring revenue. So thank you for sharing that story. I think there's a simple answer to this, but maybe on a deeper scale, why do our bodies fall out of alignment so often? Separate a traumatic injury, a car crash, a fall, something like that. The average person, why are we out of alignment so often that most people don't even realize it?
Because of our lifestyles right now.
Phones, computers, sitting.
Yeah. The stress, the anxiety, the go pace. That is sympathetic activity. So your nervous system is divided into many other systems, but specifically we're going to talk about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. The sympathetic nervous system is the one that gives you fight or flight, is the one that keeps you go, and is the one that unfortunately is the highest in our population across everywhere. For anything and everything from being in traffic for a long period of time, that gets you going. If I needed to be there 20 minutes ago and I'm still stuck in traffic and now I have someone waiting for me, that gets you going, right? That's sympathetic getting over it. You need to flight. And then parasympathetic, on the other hand, is your heal, is your rest and digest, is the one that allows you to be. Now, I'm not saying that parasympathetic has to be higher than sympathetic, but there has to be a balance, right? Parasympathetic may be dominating just a bit over sympathetic, but not a whole lot, right? Because you have to be sure that if you're driving and a car happens to come the opposite direction, you have to be able to still react and save yourself, right? So sympathetic still has to be active. But the fact that we're in such a go lifestyle doesn't allow us to adapt to the different environments. How many times have we seen a movie of a person getting shot and still be able to run 6 miles? That's not impossible, right? If a grandma is taking care of her grandchild and the child goes and runs into the road and a car hits the kid, that grandma will find power in her body to pick that car up and get the kid out. But in that picking that car up, she might absolutely crush all her bones, but she won't know it until afterwards. How many people have survived accidents that should have killed them instantly, but they were still able to get to their loved one and say, I love you. And then they go. That is their fight. That's their survival taking over. Now, when your body is in so much stress and so much change, your body is unable to adapt. Your body is unable to simply shift and move and change and flow, which creates a stuckness. It creates that subluxation. It creates that interference into your system because now you're not living, you're surviving.
Not living, but surviving. That's powerful. So I'm not going to use the word perfect world because that doesn't exist. What could be some changes people do to their daily life to, I guess, to help with preventative care for their spine and body? I know I think you posted a photo a couple months ago, totally arched over and then standing straight up. What are some things like that people could do?
So body awareness is very important, but also when we dive deeper into how our brain works and levels of awareness, there are some interferences that can happen that can prohibit you from being aware. But like you said, posture, for example, when we are sitting upright, when both of our feet are flat on the ground and our knees are 90 degrees and we're not all crisscross over and bunched over, that allows for better flow of your system.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's one. Yes. But also drinking water. That is one of the deepest conversations. Cheers.
Cheers. I'm going to take a sip now.
There we go. Yes.
Delicious.
That is one of the most common conversations I have with patients is drinking water. Oh, but I don't like the flavor.
How many people do not drink? Is that
that's very common. That is one of the most common things. Oh, I'll have a soda instead. I'll have a ginger ale.
God.
I'll have water with my coffee. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, I've had that answer before. I laughed. I just laughed. I was like, you're hilarious. I'm not joking.
Dehydrate.
Like, come on now. So drinking water, making sure that you get between 6 and 8 hours of sleep, ideally. And I know, for example, for my new moms and things like that, that's almost impossible. But are you able to just be restful? Are you able to depend and be supported by your family and your loved ones also around the life of that baby so that you can actually rest, right? Moving. Oh, how many people don't move and they only move on their cars to actually get somewhere, but the actual exercising and the word exercise has such a negative connotation because it just, you have to be there super strong or you have to take away 3 hours daily. No, walking for 10 minutes. Great. Yeah, that's moving. That's just shifting. That's allowing your body to flow and adapt a little bit better. And the processed foods. So if I had to break it down, I would say sleep, drinking water, moving for 10 to 15 minutes minimum a day, and working into the mind piece of it, meditating, praying, getting some self-awareness of what's going on. Because like you said, if your mind is not ready, your body is not going to do anything.
No, not at all.
Exactly.
But let's recap. Sleep, water, walking. Mm-hmm. Everybody can do that.
Everybody can do that.
The mind part is harder. We're not going to front about that one. That is more challenging. And that's where you're going to really look in the mirror and face your demons. Mm-hmm. But thank you. Those are some great takeaways for people to have. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about your chiropractic style, your adjustment style. How do you approach patients? You meet a new patient for the first time. Mm-hmm. What's your approach?
Very first and foremost would be openness. Yes, we go through the whole filling up the paperwork and we go through the whole legalistic piece of it. But who are you and why are you here? Seeing the person as a person rather than just a client or a patient. And how can I serve you, right? I do a lot of functional neurology base and approach where I am looking for how well does your eye moves. Are you having a little bit of a foot flare when you're walking? Observation, people watching, not in a creepy way, I promise, but people watching. And then from there, depends on what practice I am and depends on also what the patient is seeking for, whether I'm practicing neuroemotional release technique, which I'm more focused in how your emotions are directly attached to your pain and your symptoms and your ability to just perform, right? But I also work a lot with the mind. I'll give you exercises for us to be able to allow your body to adapt to the adjustment. And from the adjustment perspective, I do a lot of Gonstead adjusting, which means hands-on, is one of the techniques. It's one of the very early techniques, actually. And I've also used instrument adjusting, where I have an activator. Mm-hmm. Just a tool. Is a little bit of a high velocity, low force technique, and it still allows the body to be adjusted and relieved. Depending on the necessities and depending on the resources that we have, I've used decompression therapy for patients that have more of a disc-related injuries.
Yeah, and for everybody listening in the video aspect, I'll have pictures coming up of what you just described.
Yeah.
All of those tools are used for, I think, different injuries and for different individuals. So all work very well. But I think it's not just you're going to sit on a table and someone's going to press on your body. There's multiple different avenues that someone can go down. I know we've spoken about this a little bit. Because I'm sure that there are other women out there watching this that are inspired by you. Most of the chiropractors I've met are male. My size, probably bigger than me. You and I are not the same size.
Nope.
And I know that people have judged you based off you being a female and your size. Two questions. One, really main question is, how do you combat that?
Yeah.
And then what do people react when they actually get adjusted by you?
Oh, I love this one. I think that was one of my questions when I first visited the school. There was a girl, a student, a female, that was on stage and they were answering questions. And that was one of my questions, was like, as a female, how do you succeed in a male dominated environment? And she was so amazing at answering. And then after that became my favorite question to answer. And I get this all the time because I am 120 pounds and I am 5 feet tall, 5'1" on my best days. Today, 5'2" because I got heels.
Got the heels.
But I've gotten the patients walking in and being like, you're going to adjust me? And they look at me up and down and I'm like, my sassy part of Puerto Rican comes out all the time and it's fine. And I'm like, look, oh my God, let me just get through this, okay? Now, what I answer to other fellow chiropractors is always, you can always put more into something. You can never take away the amount of input that you've already put. So, meaning we can always walk our way up into how much input does that system needs for it to adapt and correct versus putting all this amount of energy and force into this body. And you'd be surprised. Most of my bigger patients are the patients that need the least amount of input.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's hilarious to me. But to answer your question, I think that as a smaller female, we have the challenges of not even being able to get the cereal that is in the top shelf, but we find a way, right? And it's all about finding the way that allows you to be able to help someone else. Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And yeah, I mean, I'm a foot taller than you, and you will throw me around the table and I'm flying off. Yeah. But that also comes back to you being an athlete too, and having that strength to manage your work lifestyle. Another question that I had was, because when I'm getting treatment from you, you'll do my services and then I'll watch other people get adjusted while I'm on like the decompression table. How do you manage everyone's uniqueness about their body? Keep it all in your head, one after the other. Because I've seen you, because maybe 10, 15 minutes we're together on the table. I lay down on the decompression table. I'm there for another 20 minutes. You might see one or two other people. You will speak to them about the very specific thing in their knee. Then you'll focus on my lower back. Then you'll focus on someone's neck. Then you'll focus on their shoulder. And it's all like you haven't missed a beat. How the hell do you manage that?
One, really good note taking.
Okay, that's good. So you've improved from elementary school. You take notes now.
Yeah,
I listened.
No, I actually take notes. Really good note taking, but I think and I know and I believe. Okay, let's see if you've noticed. What is the very first thing I do when you're laying face down on the table?
To anybody or for me?
For yourself.
For me, the very first thing you do, typically, I think you stand at my feet, and I think you make sure my feet are level and together. And then almost always you'll run a finger or two, like from my neck down my spine to my hips, and you will stop before I say anything, because I'll test you sometimes. And I'll be like,
test you.
She really have secret powers. And you'll stop in the areas that hurt. And I'm like, what the fuck? Is that accurate? Is that what you do? Am I missing something?
Ish. There's something that I always do right before even checking your feet.
I don't know.
I always come in contact with your calves. Full-handed. I simply just touch you.
Yeah.
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 I do that with every single person. And that is just my way of saying I am present here with you today. And I always go through in my head, can I serve you today? I just ask your body, can I serve you today? And most of the time it's a yes. And there has been time that there's a no. And I'm like, you know what? I don't think you need an adjustment today. And off you go. And usually they're not happy about that. And it's okay. They just come back later and they're like, why didn't you adjust me last time? And after I tell them and they're like, oh, okay. I believe you then.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. And I'm sure people listening that haven't had any of this done think we're wacko. Your body, you have to be willing to accept healing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big thing I've learned over the last few years of the struggles I've gone through. And there have been times where if I'm not relaxed, my neck is not going to adjust.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to take a deep breath and you have to relax into it and allow your body to heal.
Mm-hmm.
So good note taking. And then you touch the calves and you ask to be served.
Yeah. So it's just being in contact with the body and communicating. There's a lot of feeling in this profession, which is, it's a beautiful thing. You have to be able to you have to be able to feel, you have to be able to connect with the entity that you have in front of you. Because if otherwise I'm just snackle, crackle, and popping and dropping an elbow on you, I might do some harm. And that's just not why I'm here.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah.
What would you say to someone that has not had treatment before? Because I talk to a lot of people that have not had it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're scared, rightfully so, actually, because I think the wrong adjustment could hurt you. Granted, the wrong anything could hurt you.
There you go. Yeah.
It does not matter what it is.
Yeah.
You take a wrong step up a stair, you're going to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, what would you say to someone that's nervous about it?
I've had so many of these conversations, yet every one of them looks so different because it's all about easing their worries, I believe. Whether that worry is, oh, but my neck hurts and I feel like you're going to hurt it even more. Well, I will walk you through the steps before doing anything. 1. 2, I will educate you. Also, education is key, which is why I think that everyone needs a chiropractor and an acupuncturist and a massage therapist and a general doctor and an internist, a cardiologist, everything, all the ologists and more, right? Because it's all about knowing the resources. It's all about education. So I will educate the patient on how I can help them and I would connect with them. Now, what would I tell you specifically? Let's say that you came in with a low back injury, right? And you were terrified because you visited other chiropractors before because you haven't visited a chiropractor before. Yeah. I always ask, have you seen a chiropractor before? Let's say that you say no. I'm like, okay. So as a chiropractor, I'm going to be looking at your body as a full entity. I'm going to be analyzing what works for your body and what doesn't. I want this to be a relationship of ease and healing. I never want it to be a relationship based of fear. If you're in fear, you don't heal. And if you allow me to, I would love to serve you and I walk you through all the steps of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Can I do that for you? That's it. That is it at that point. I'm just asking for permission if I can serve you or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're developing, I mean, it's the beginning of a relationship with the patient.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you guys are working together sometimes every day, every couple of days, every week, you know, and people are coming in with pain and struggles, you know, and opening themselves up to you.
Yeah.
So I would love to pivot a little bit and I want to jump back into your storyline a little bit because I think that this kind of all ties together. So let's see, May. So you started at Progressive in 2019, December. Work throughout this year. And then May, I know that you had a really severe accident in CrossFit. Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Can you share with people what happened during the injury?
Right. Absolutely. So CrossFit and just athleticism and being active has always been my go away and my reconnect to self. And on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, on May 5th of this 2020, I was doing some toes to bar, which means that I'm hanging from a pull-up bar, and I'm bringing my feet towards the bar, and my hands just slipped. I don't know how else to describe it. I just slipped. My hands just gave out on me, and I landed on my head with my body curled over my head. And that happened. We were supposed to have a game day, a Cinco de Mayo game day at the house, and all of a sudden everything's canceled and whatnot. Of course, the coaches want to call 911 because I am at that point I didn't feel any pain. I just knew that there was something going on, and I was like trying to calm everybody down, which is hilarious. You're on the floor, you're like this, looking up, and you're like, just calm down, guys. And I'm giving instructions at this point. I'm like, you bring an ice pack. I have one in my office. You bring me some towels. I need to stabilize my neck. You get on my phone. You're going to call this person first. If they don't answer, this person second. If they don't answer, this person, right? So we get a hold of a fellow best friend and chiropractor, Dr. Jerry Knight Bryant, and his wife, Dr. Jessica Knight Bryant. And they get to CrossFit 1490. And because my office is in there, I had been moved into my office space. I was laying down on the table. We go through some testings and whatnot. And I make the decision. I was like, I can't go to the hospital. I need nobody. I cannot. Mainly because I don't have healthcare insurance. And, healthcare is really expensive in the United States. And so I just went home. My mentor, Dr. Longyear, he's in Florida with his wife, Dr. Megan Longyear. And I called them. He's a functional neurologist and one of the most brilliant humans I've ever in my life encountered. And Luis, my boyfriend, he's explaining all the things that are happening. And he's like, okay, the next few hours are going to be imperative. You have to wake her up every 30 minutes. You have to make sure that she doesn't have battle signs and she doesn't have raccoon eye signs and she doesn't have fluid coming out of her ears and all these different things. And after about 4 hours from the moment of the accident, getting Dr. G and Dr. Jessica in contact, getting some x-rays at their clinic, and going home and talking to Dr. Longyear, I started drastically decreasing to the point where I was like, I can't see, I can see, but everything is just so, I don't like it, to, oh shit, I can't make words. I can't communicate. I can't say anything. And early next morning, Luis is talking to Dr. Longyear. He's like, I know she doesn't want to hear us, but she has to go to the hospital. I need a brain scan. We went to his clinic in Georgia, Neurolife, saw Dr. Dom there, and he's like, I need to make sure that there's not a brain bleed, because he asked me to write some things, and I couldn't write, and I couldn't say anything. I couldn't follow just random cues. Here's the thing. Functional neurology is also what I do, which means that I know what every test is looking for, which means that I know when my body's not performing, which means that I already know my diagnoses. Yeah. And I'm just angry at this point. I am angry at just everything, and got taken to the hospital. I got rushed in as a stroke patient because I can't create words. So went through all the steps and whatnot. Got the brain scans, got 2 brain scans, got extra imaging, got blood work, and I got sent home with we don't really, everything seems fine. That was Friday. Cinco de Mayo was that was Thursday. Cinco de Mayo was Wednesday. That was Thursday. Friday, I start getting seen at Neurolife. Sunday, I get the report, the official report of the radiologist from the brain scans, just to be told that I had a brain bleed And that was the reason, because that area of the brain that was bleeding was the brain that goes into Broca's area. Broca's area is a part of the brain that helps you do this, that helps you speak. And now all of a sudden, everything just made sense. Now I am in excruciating pain. I have a bruise on the back of my head. I am in a lot of just discomfort. And I just can't talk. And like I said, I've been a talker since, pretty much since birth. So yeah, I went through that, and I was in therapy probably 4 or 5 times a week for 2 hours. And I did a lot of hyperbaric, a lot of functional neurology. And my 2 things that mean the most for me, my practice and my gym, my physical activity, were taking away from me for that time, just because I couldn't serve. I couldn't even stand up without wobbling. So, I was able to go through a series of treatments directly with Dr. Dom and Dr. Longyear, and oh my God, these people, I owe them my life, and about maybe 2 months, no, under 2 months, under 2 months, because I went back to practice by June 16 or something like that.
It was like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I think it's difficult for people to understand how bad it was. Seeing and hearing you talk today, you're inspiring. It really is. I remember when I heard about it, we didn't get much information, and then I was following you on Instagram, and I saw, and I was like, oh my God, this is way more severe than I think anybody even realized. Was there a point? Was there anyone telling you like, hey, like, you're not going to recover quickly, like you need to be ready for the long haul?
No,
they were.
And I think that's the reason why I recovered so quickly, because Dr. Longyear has an amazing book out there, because he was also told he wasn't going to be able to be the person that he is today once upon a time. And that's what led him into him being a chiropractor, him being a functional neurologist, and so forth and so on. He's the first person to take that label away from anyone. And even though I had doubts, and my partner had doubts, and my sister had doubts, and my mom had doubts whether or not I'll be able to speak again, he never allowed that. So he was like, no, we got you.
What was the name of the book?
Oh, God.
You told me about it too, and I forgot about it too.
Yeah.
Damn it. All right.
I'll look it up in a little bit. I'm sorry.
This looks bad on both of us. We're not remembering this. Shit.
I'm sorry.
Something about injury and healing.
Yeah.
And
your true self. It'll come to me. It'll come to me.
We'll get it. I mean, it was bad. I mean, it was bad. It was really rough. And I remember seeing that and just thinking, damn, this is out of not when you fell off the bar, an activity you do almost every day. And just a slip and a fall. And it really goes to show how delicate the brain is. And I guess, how are you able to keep going and pushing through? Because that therapy was brutal. How do you keep pushing forward? I mean, like, you have these struggles as a kid. You're diagnosed with cancer your first year into DC program. And then now this happens when you're at your dream job. Life is going great, and it just stopped.
Got squished.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I had just arrived from a beautiful vacation in Mexico. I don't know if you remember, on Tuesday. So I went to work one day, and then all of a sudden I'm like, well, never mind.
Yeah.
I'm out.
No,
I guess, like, you just don't have an option. I just don't have an option. I made it a point to just not have an option, because there's something that I'm supposed to accomplish that I'm clearly here still for, and it's frightening, because I do believe that when you're given all these things back to back to back, they are to make you some kind of stronger, because something big is supposed to happen that is supposed to come from you, right? And that's something that I love and I hate, because I'm like, oh my God, that's a lot of responsibility. I hate it. I'm scared. I'm terrified of what I'm supposed to bring to the world. But also I love it, because I'm like, dang, that's a reason to keep going. Because clearly I'm not done with whatever I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. So you are a healer that was not able to heal people during that time, but you had to heal yourself.
Heal thyself.
What I guess, what did that do to you? What did that do for you, and what did that do to you during that time?
It definitely gave me a different perspective, because having to be the patient and having to allow someone else and trust someone else that much, it also gave me, even though I love and I know how prepared the doctors with me were, I still had my doubts. I'm like, am I missing something? What if I don't? And all of a sudden I'm like, that's the same thing that my patients go through. When I give them all the hope, when I give them all the, you're going to get through it. It's fine. Like, it's so normal. But also, a huge thing that it did for me was a lot of mental health stamina. That one is a hard one. Oh my God.
I've not actually ever heard that phrase, mental health stamina. What do you mean by that?
I mean, like you said, life was going great. It was going perfect.
Thriving.
I had a dream job. I was thriving. I'm magically and madly in love with this awesome human that I found. And everything was perfect. I had just come from a trip, you know? And then all of a sudden, I'm in a household in a corner, not being able to prepare myself food, you know, for that matter, or take care of my dog who fully depends on me, you know?
Just normal, basic human activities. Couldn't do it.
The fact that I couldn't take a shower on my own. Oh, ho, 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 ho. And I've been this super ultra independent person my whole life.
Yeah.
Right. So mental stamina, in the sense that random things would come at you, and depression creeps in, and anxiety creeps in, and self-doubt creeps in. So yeah, having to develop a new layer of mental stamina and keeping up with myself.
I can't even imagine how challenging it was during that time. One of the things that I saw, you know, because I didn't see, from when it happened, I didn't see you for like 4 or 6 weeks, but I was following you on Instagram, and it was both difficult, but also good to see you posting and giving updates, because everybody in your life cares about you and just want to see you get better. A couple of weeks after, maybe like 2 months after, when your speech had really improved, and you had really gotten back to, I don't think to where you had wanted to be, but to the point where you could work again. You posted that something about your therapy, and you said a friend asked you why you hadn't posted about your recovery that much more. And you said, because growing up, you were the sick girl, the injured girl, the girl in the hospital, and you didn't want to let your injury become your identity. That hit home hard for me. And I'm sure for a lot of other people. Can you speak on that a little bit? And just because you're still going through therapy now, for this.
Yeah, I just came from therapy.
You literally just came from it, while healing other people. For people that are struggling for anything, it does not matter what they're going through. How can someone, I guess, share? Because it's also, you want to share what's going on because it's all bottled up inside. But how can someone share what's going on but not let it define who they are?
It's a hard boundary that, to be honest, I'm still learning to juggle. But the same comment that I said before, when I tell my patients that they're not their symptoms, they're not their disease, that I am Verónica García Chaparro, like, this is who I am, and I am beautiful, and I am energetic, and I am meaningful, I am purposeful, and I am born with purpose, which is how we got even started. I needed to take a step back, because all of a sudden, everyone that I would see would always see, how's your head? Sometimes you just don't want to talk about it, guys. You don't.
Have a life outside of it. Yeah.
Yes. How's my dog? Oh my gosh, she's so amazing. Oh, she's so sassy. I love her. Yeah, you know? Like, but at the same time, I know that it comes from a place of love when people ask you. So
it does.
So to be honest, I don't think I know how to answer that question, because I'm still trying to figure out how you are truly able to talk about the things that you're going through, but not let it, but not be them 100% and learning how to manage that.
You did answer it.
Mm.
You do both.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the answer.
Mm-hmm.
You share with people, but you continue to move forward. And I think you, in spite of whatever you're going through, you choose to have other things in your life that you can hold on to.
Right.
Probably. I think
love
so.
that.
You said the words born with purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell people about the t-shirts that we're wearing?
Oh, thank you for wearing them.
You're very welcome. I was wondering, I was like, is she going to wear the black or which one is she going to wear? Because I was like, I got to rock this. So share.
I love it.
Please share.
So when I was just able to start thinking about things that I could do, because I'm a very, like I said, very independent. I've always liked to get myself super busy and stay busy. I had a lot of time in my hands healing. I was like, what can I do, guys? I was like, I want it to be something inspiring and meaningful and something that allows to also provide a financial stability in a time that I'm not being able to work, but create some kind of income. And Born with Purpose began as a random thought with my boyfriend and his roommates. I was just giving them ideas. I was like, how about something with donuts? Because everybody knows I love donuts.
Vegan donuts.
Yes, vegan donuts. Absolutely. 100%. But we kept just going with things. And I was like, we're all born with a purpose. And I think my boyfriend was the one that was like, born with purpose. I'm like, huh. I love that. That's brilliant. But it's a self-empowerment thing. Every time that you look at yourself in the mirror, you are reminded that you're born with purpose. Whether you want to accept it or not, you are here for a beautiful reason that you just will accomplish, period. Because the universe, God, your higher power entity will not allow you not to.
Yeah.
Maybe it is to help someone cross the street. Maybe it is to help heal people. Maybe it is to do this other magical, magnificent thing that has not even been thought of, but it's going to come to you when you were born with that purpose. But you're also born with the purpose of being your absolute authentic self. So, yeah.
Well, thank you. I love the shirts. And when they came out, I wanted to support.
Thank you.
And the shirts are great too. But the messaging behind it was powerful. And I get comments on it from other people just saying, hey, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's easy to forget that we're all born with purpose. There's billions of people in the world. You get lost in the commotion. But every human being has a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we forget that. And we need to be reminded of that every single day.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you for sharing about the injury story and how you yet again you have conquered and overcome. But I also think it's good for people to know, because again, I'm not sure how long we've been doing the interview, hour and a half, 2 hours so far. Your speech is great. It looks like nothing is wrong, and we've talked about that before. People saying, "Oh, you look great. You look healthy. Nothing could be wrong with you." Where it's like, if you only knew what was going on. But I think again, you're a great example for people to see, like, you're still facing your battles and you have to do therapy, but you can still choose. You're doing your best to live your life in spite of all of that.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
Yeah, it's beautiful. All right. Jumping on to some more stuff.
Go ahead.
Let's talk about neuro-emotional technique,
Ooh.
if we can. Before we jump into that, got all these notes here. I just want to read off what you're certified in so people understand her continuing education. Z-Health Neurology, Physical Therapy Modalities, Activator Methods Technique, Spinal Decompression Therapy, Gonstead Chiropractic Technique, Extra Spinal Manipulation, and Neuro-Emotional Technique. Everyone listening, I think it's super important to be involved in continuing education, no matter the industry that you're in. We do this a lot in the film industry. We take courses all the time on a regular basis. That's just how you better yourself. And even if you don't use what you learned, you at least have the knowledge to influence future decisions. Can you explain to everybody what neuroemotional technique is?
Of course. So neuroemotional technique, I got introduced to it by the wife of Dr. Longyear, the person that saved my life during the accident, Dr. Megan Longyear. Oh my God, the most beautiful soul I've ever met in my life is her. And she introduced me one day in school. She was like, hey, do you mind if I do any tea on you? I'm like, I don't know what that is, but sure, why not? Oh my God, I'm in for a ride. So with their emotional technique, we're looking again on how the emotions are directly attached to your different life experiences. Okay. So, and can we release those? Our emotions, our experiences, our emotional reality changes and adapts through everything that we're exposed to, right? So emotional reality, this experience right now, in about 5 years, we might come together over dinner and I will ask you, man, do you remember that interview? And you'll be like, oh my God, yeah. And we're going to start talking about it. And you're going to say, yeah, because remember like how the lamps were yellow? And I'm like, no, the lamps were blue. And you're like, no, the lamps were yellow. I'm not right. And you're not right. None of us are right, but we're all right. What? So your emotional reality changes and adapts as the physiology of your body according to the experience. And that reality, it's so real to you. And I know that's a lot of just the same word in different contexts, but it is what it is, right? So with neuroemotional technique, we're looking at meridian points, we're looking at muscle testing, and we're looking at the power that your body has had over this emotion and how it has governed your physiology, right? So if you've never seen it done, there's an episode of Grey's Anatomy that has it. I'm not even joking.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was not expecting that.
Exactly. Neuroemotional technique is also can be practiced by first and foremost a person that has done the training, but also the last training I went to was in Florida in Captiva Island. It was amazing, and there was a forensic psychologist next to me getting trained on it. There was a therapist, there was chiropractors, there was medical doctors, there was counselors, there was life coach therapists. So you can receive the technique by a provider that has been through the continuing education, right? But I think that when we look at the body, when I look at my patient and I go through the physical aspect of it, your hip hurts. Can you look at my hip? I looked at your hip.
Yeah.
We've been through your hip for 3 months now, and your hip hasn't gotten better. I'm like, hold on. Let's look at the emotional aspect of it. And all of a sudden comes up as we're doing retrograde remembering of your life and experiences and emotions. All of a sudden it comes up that hip pain actually started when you were riding your bike when you were 7 and a little kid was throwing something at you and it created some anger. So every time that you get angry in traffic, it's going to flare up that hip because there's an emotional connection to it. So now we just have to release that. Oh my God, I love this technique so much. It's one of my favorite things in the whole entire world.
And for people listening, I was introduced to this because I came in for a chiropractic session. You had gotten certified and you said, hey, do you want to try this? It is unique. It is a very unique experience. The first time I remember it was good. It wasn't anything crazy.
Mm-hmm.
The second time, and tell me if my quote is right, you had, you'll sit down, she'll ask questions. There's this spray. Honestly, as I described this is a horrible description. But you would ask me these questions that it was almost like you could look into my past and read my mind. Questions and answers and guiding me of things that you just wouldn't know, that we had never talked about. Mm-hmm. And ironically, we didn't even get into detail about it. It was very surface level stuff. So it's not like you have to tell your whole life story about trauma and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then what were you pressing on? Was it my neck or my neck? Yeah. And then I fucking cried. And then I just started crying. It was it was a very strange release of emotions to where we were talking and we did she was pressing my neck. And then I'm looking down and in my head, I'm like, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. And then the tears just started flowing. And it was such a release. And I remember just sitting back and I was very tired. I was really tired afterwards. I felt vulnerable, uncomfortably vulnerable, not because of you. No. Just, I was crying over nothing. And it was such a release. And that's been good for me too, because with my injuries, I've held on to so much anger. So much anger and so much resentment towards my own body.
Mm.
And that is not healthy. And I think a
Mm.
lot of people hold on to anger and resentment to their body than they even realize.
Mhm.
So thank you for sharing about that. Again, guys, we shared a lot of stuff in the interview. This was just one that I think is really powerful. And at the first sounds of it, sounds a little strange,
Mhm.
and can be uncomfortable, but that does not mean it's a bad thing.
Mhm.
And I didn't even mean for, I think, a big message of this interview to be about the mind, but it clearly is.
It definitely is.
Yeah, but it's powerful.
Mm.
You know, it has. So everybody try it. It's
Yes. Find an NET provider near you.
Find someone. It's a good commercial right there.
You're welcome.
Yes. Okay, so jumping forward. All right, let's talk about healing and healing hands. And this is something that I've mentioned to you before. On Instagram a couple weeks ago, you posted that picture of the patient's letter calling you the wonderful healer. And I had said months prior, like, Dr. Garcia, you have healing hands. This is amazing. So few questions around this.
Yeah.
Have you always been able to pick up and read someone's energy prior to being a chiropractor? Just kid and teenager. Could you read people's aura and energy?
I think all kids can.
Okay.
Every single child can.
Do people lose it over time though?
Absolutely.
Because, okay, so I guess, yes, I do agree with that. They definitely can pick up on energy. But as a late teenager, young adult, did you have that?
I think I always had this intuition, not necessarily just with my hands, but just with the environment. I'm like, oh, I'm not supposed to be here. I should get out, you know? But it's something definitely that I developed more in school, and I still am developing. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I mean by that with healing hands is, you know, you had asked me earlier, what's the first thing you do when you sit down for an adjustment? It's always fascinating because sometimes I'll come in and I'm in a lot of pain. I'm like, hey, this is what's hurting. Let's focus on this. Other times I'll say, yeah, you know, it's the usual. And you'll feel in my neck, my back, my hips, and you'll press on places where I'm like, I didn't even know that was hurting. How did she know this was hurting? So how did that develop over time? Because it's almost like there's it's like a secret power with a glowing aura around the hands, and you touch someone's body, and it's fascinating. How did that develop over time?
That's a great question. I think that getting more in tune with my gifts. And we are all born with certain gifts that are meant to fulfill our purpose that we are born with. And I think that definitely getting more in tune with my gift. I've always known that I want to help people. I just didn't know how, you know. And if you were to like put your hands together, right, you're going to feel either extreme heat or extreme coolness, right? And as you start slowly but surely separating, you are going to feel this energetic wave that you can also feel when you do it with someone completely different than you, right? Our hands, from a anatomical perspective, we have the most sensory nerves in our hands. So that gives you a whole bunch of just explanation there, right? But I think that when you choose to step into your calling, things are going to happen for them, right? And I also think that nothing happens to you. Everything happens for you for a reason. Not something that I hate when people say like, oh, everything happens for a reason. Like, well, that person might not be ready to hear that, right? And what is the reason of my child getting cancer and dying 2 weeks after? You don't tell a parent everything happens for a reason, you know? But to an extent, you are being called into this ultimate reason, purposeful thing that might get you somewhere else to create. Now, I think that when it comes to my ability to understand energy and heal and whatnot, I also have to be open to that. And that's something you have to train. You have to train because I need to make sure that who I am, my energy, myself is not going to invade what you're coming in with, right? My things get left at the door, in the bag, outside, in the chair that I was sitting before I stood up and got to see you.
Yeah. So I didn't even think about that because you're coming in with your own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's a great answer. And I didn't know that about our hands having the most sensory in the entire body, but it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That leads me to my next question. How do you balance taking care of patients? Because on a long day, how many patients are you seeing?
Depends, but it could go up to 60, honestly, sometimes.
So a lot of physical exertion,
Mm-hmm.
and you're a healer,
Mm-hmm.
and this is what you're called to do. And you have a perfectionist type personality where you want to help everyone, which is an amazing until it hurts you.
Yeah.
How do you balance taking care of patients and taking care of yourself?
I have to be selfish about it, to be honest. And I think we all do. Because we have expectations of ourselves, and then there's expectations of performance of someone else over you. And when you are able to do something, you're able to do it. When you're not, you're not. And the way that I manage it is, number one, is that I have to be present with every single person that I touch. And I have to be able to be an open vase for them. But that means that a lot of the times energy is not created nor destroyed. Energy is transferred, you know? And a lot of times I take some of that transferring into myself. So I need to get into care. I need to also walk my talk. I need to get NET services. I need to get like my therapies. I need to do all the things that I advise my patients to do. Otherwise, I'm a hypocrite.
And would you say you're not going to be able to serve your patients as well if you're not serving yourself?
100%.
And taking care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%. I've seen it.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen it on myself when I'm like, I'll do that later. I'll postpone my appointment. I have this other thing. Okay, patient texted me. They need me there and then however long. I'll do them first. I'm like, you can't serve from an empty cup, Veronica. You really can't. So
it's about being selfish, which is not a bad thing
Mm-mm.
when you're taking care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
We need to come up with another word for that instead of selfish, but taking care of yourself. We'll think on that. Okay, so this interview has been fantastic, and I'm really enjoying it. Before we wrap up, let's talk about the future for you, the next 5 to 10 years. I know we've talked a little bit, but share with me and people listening, what are you looking forward to?
Absolutely. I'm looking for continuing to help. Now, I do my absolute dream, and the more that I see it, the more that I reflect on it, the more that I project, and I'm like, this might be my purpose. Maybe I'm up to something over here. I would love to open up a healing center where it's more of a retreat style, where you stay in and you go through the stages of relearning what we have lost, and getting back in tune to who you're meant to be. I think that's what definitely my next 5 years hold, is continuing to build on that. It's not an idea that popped into my head a few years ago. It's a seed that was planted from a very young age, and it has kept growing and growing and growing and developing. I'm ready for it.
So we can expect to see this incredible clinic come in the future. And I also feel like for what you've been doing, you've been building all these skill sets that can eventually, and the networking and the relationships to grow that.
Absolutely.
Well, when you have this clinic built, we're going to come back on. We're going to do the interview there, the second interview, follow-up interview.
I love it.
And we'll talk all about that.
I love it.
Okay. So before we officially wrap the interview, we're gonna it's been a heavy conversation. We're gonna jump into some more fun questions that will learn a little bit more about you. Let us start with what is a album that defines you?
That is such a hard question.
I know. That's why I emailed you these questions yesterday. I had to give you
last night
24 hours. Not even, like 18.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, these are fun. These are like, this is not the gist of the interview, but this is quick.
Yeah.
This is cool. As soon as I started reading, I'm like, oh my God.
Still complex.
Yes, so complex. So for the album, I couldn't come up with anything. Okay.
That's okay.
Couldn't come up with anything, but I could come up with a specific song.
Great.
Okay. It's called Ella, which means her, by Bebe. It's a very, very old song, and if you look it up, like, that will be the most perfect rhythm. It says, like, she's in essence, it talks about she's tired of the social expectations, and she's just gonna be her. That's literally what it says, the song, which I was like, yes.
Boom. Well, I haven't heard it, but after the interview, we'll play it and we'll hear it. What about a movie that defines you?
A movie. So as soon as I read the question, the first thing that came to mind was Harry Potter.
A specific one? Do you have one?
The whole thing.
All of it.
All of it. Just the story, the storyline. Because, okay, he has this power within him, right? He's meant for this grand thing. And from the moment of almost birth, there's this entity, aka Voldemort, if you haven't watched it, that is coming at him with a lot of struggles to not allow him to fulfill his purpose. And that's how I can define myself. Every movie, every chapter, every book is a new thing. First, my mom going into cardiac arrest. Then being diagnosed with all these things, not being able to see. Then a deep vein thrombosis, being told that I'm not going to grow to 18. Then cancer. Then the accident. I'm like, all right, what's the next chapter? All right, yeah. I'm ready. I don't want to go through it, but I'm ready. So I think that Harry Potter, the whole thing.
That's an amazing parallel, because it's almost like in every book and movie, they have all the little side quests, and at the end of the year, it's a crazy obstacle and thing that they have to overcome.
Yeah.
And your life's like a movie.
Yeah. My life is a movie.
Oh my goodness. So what about book? What is a book?
Ooh. I don't know. Book that defines me. Oh, You Do You. Oh, I have that book in the office, actually.
It's good.
You Do You. I discovered it in Thailand, and I read it there.
Where you were doing you.
Yeah, where I was doing me. And I don't know who the author is. Sorry. But it just talks about that journey of like understanding who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 dinner guests at your dinner of choice, dead or alive. Who's at your table? Your 5 people.
Okay. I have to say, this is so hard. I have to say my 5 guests are Dalai Lama, Jesus.
Nice.
Dr. Meg Longyear. Oh, the poet. Ruby Kaur.
Okay.
And I'm going to leave the last chair open because I haven't met her yet. And I know it's a she. She's the other person.
Okay. So Dalai Lama, Jesus, Dr. Meg. The 4th person was?
A poet, Ruby.
The poet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And where are y'all going to eat?
Ooh. Something that is all you can eat.
There you go. Jesus, you ever had a dumpling? Is that...
Yo, ramen. Oh my God, I'd be slipping my life away.
That'd be great.
Oh,
that'd be
goodness.
So much fun. What is a purchase under $100 that has had the biggest impact on your life? Of all the questions, that's probably the toughest one.
Yeah, 100%. Oh my God. Purchase under $100 that has had the greatest impact in my life. That's a big one thing. Oh my God, my journal. Yes, my journal.
That's a good one.
Yes.
Do you write in your journal daily, every couple of days?
Daily.
You're pretty
You've got
consistent
to.
with it. That's good. That's good.
Got to set up an alarm.
I do that for the meditation. You have to. You forget. And then you beat yourself up about it.
Yeah.
Next question. Where in the world do you feel most present?
Without a doubt, when I'm adjusting, when I'm serving. Yeah.
That's a great answer. Would CrossFit / gym be up there too?
Mm-hmm.
Close.
100%.
Who has inspired you the most in your life that you've not had the chance to meet yet?
My future self.
Mm.
I haven't met her yet, but she's pretty dang inspiring because she's taking me through all these random shit. So, my future self.
That's a great answer. What is a skill that you don't have right now that you would love to learn?
A lot of them. Ugh. I guess it has to be, I don't know if this is a specific skill, but it has to be not giving a fuck.
I second that. I second that. So you want to have the skill of not giving a fuck?
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how many fucks do you give right now?
A lot.
A lot.
Absolutely.
So you want to...
Yeah. In the sense of like, I feel like I get influenced myself. I'm very much in tune with who I am, and we talked a little bit about that. But at the end of the day, I'm like, I want to be able to just not give a fuck about whether or not I'm waving my non fitting artistic personality into this specifically fitting world. Yeah. You know? So yeah, that's definitely a skill I want to learn.
I'm right there with you. It's well, also if you want to get where you want to go in your life, you gotta not give a fuck sometimes. Just keep moving forward.
Exactly.
Well, also because if you did what everybody else told you to do, then you would just be like everybody else. That ain't it. That ain't it at all. How do you rest and recover?
Sleeping. Functional movement in addition to my training, which is interesting. I was like, doesn't that make you more tired? I'm like, no.
Gives you energy.
The complete opposite. Eating a healthy meal.
Yeah.
Like a healthy meal that I'm craving, which is very interesting because I think that craves are your body telling you what you need, not to be confused with addiction.
Yes.
Right. And sleeping. I love a good night's sleep.
Those are hard to come by.
Yeah.
What is something that you haven't manifested into reality yet, but you are going to?
My practice, my clinic.
Yep.
Which is, I don't want it to be called a clinic, by the way. The more I think about it, I'm like, no, it's not going to be a clinic. It's a healing center. It's a find thyself center. And my children's book.
Yeah, you did mention that. That'll be cool.
That's so exciting.
That'll be for round 2, interview 2. We'll talk about that. And then final question.
Yeah.
What is your edge in life?
What does that mean? What does edge mean?
I think it can mean things to different people, but your edge meaning, if someone were to ask me, Jordan, what is your edge in life? I would say probably that I have the ability to connect and communicate and develop relationships with people of all walks of life, no matter their age, gender, what they look like. And that's really helped me throughout my life. So for you, when you think about Verónica García Chaparro and the skills that you have that have helped you get to that next level, that would be like an edge that it may not even been gifted. You could have developed it. But what do you think is your edge?
I think that maybe the not thinking twice, the ability that I've developed that to not think twice and just go full force on something, that has allowed me to create the most impact, I believe, in other people's lives, but my life as well, and to grow into the person that I know I am becoming. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's your edge. Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree.
Edge.
Well, Dr. Garcia, thank you so much for doing this interview. I've had a lot of fun. And
Same.
yeah, this has been fantastic. If someone wants to get in touch with you, have questions, follow you, could you share with people how they could follow and get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can always find me on Instagram. My Instagram is VERO _ and then Andrea, which is my second name, opposite. So we'll
have it all linked up.
AERDNA. I got it.
We'll have it linked up on YouTube and in notes so
Yeah.
people can follow from there.
Or they can always send me an email, drgarciachaparro@gmail.com.
Yes.
Always available there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for
giving us the time today. Thank you for, despite all the obstacles in the world coming at you, you fight back. And thank you for being a healer and gifting us with your healing energy. I appreciate it, along with the thousands of other patients that you've worked with. So truly, truly thank you.
Thank you.
Very,
thank
very
you
much.
for having me, Jordan.
Absolutely. And for everybody watching, thank you guys for listening and tuning in. We really appreciate it. There will be many more episodes just like this where we share people's life story and their journey. We're here to help you, to connect with you. And I love you guys and I appreciate you. And I will see you next week. Take care.
Have an awesome one.